The Tigers have finally won some ball games in the calendar year of 2026. They have also started spring cuts.
You are Locked On Tigers, your daily Detroit Tigers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Tigers. I'm, of course, your host, Scott Bentley. Today is Monday, March 2nd, 2026. Thank you so much for making Locked On Tigers your first listen. Every single day, we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by MLB The Show 26. Visit MLBThe.show/locked on and use code locked on to unlock a pack for use in Diamond Dynasty. Pre-order now, available March 17th on PlayStation 5, Xbox, and Nintendo Switch. Rated E for everyone. Welcome in, welcome all. Happy Monday. Hope you all had a fantastic weekend. As the Detroit Tigers, I would argue, had a pretty fantastic weekend in the context of, obviously it's still spring training baseball. Had Benetti on the call on Sunday with Petrie. They broadcasted the game live. You also had winning. They did not lose a game this weekend. Win, win, tie were the three outcomes from the Tigers, and we had offensive explosions on Friday and Saturday. We will get to all of that, but first I want to start off with what is the biggest news off the field, and that is the first wave of roster cuts. There's actually been two since the last time we spoke. Technically, the first was on Friday. We'll get to that. Not very notable. And then on Sunday morning, Saturday night, one of the two, doesn't matter. Time isn't real. There was another smaller round, but some more prominent names in those two decisions. So we will talk about that. We'll talk about Troy Melton. We'll talk about Justin Verlander, the WBC, some more injury updates, and then obviously get into the news and notes on the field. So with these roster cuts, the first round was Phil Bickford, Dugan Darnell, Tyler Owens, and Troy Watson. Now, relatively noteworthy, like Tyler Owens was added to the 40-man a couple of off seasons ago and just hasn't been able to stay too terribly healthy, unfortunately, since has pitched for the Tigers. Dugan Darnell, like all of these guys are minor league contracts with invite to Major League Spring Training. The biggest takeaway here is, it's the first round of cuts. Let's see who it is. It's like that. It's like that GIF where the guy opens the refrigerator door and he's like rubbing his hands together, and then he turns away and is like, "Oh, there's nothing good in here" immediately after. It has nothing to do with the players or how good they are or wanting to see people get cut. It's just that all four of these guys are hurt. So correct. They're definitely not going to make the opening day roster. But it is technically news. But again, rooting for everybody. Wish there was a way for everyone to make the team. Not rooting for anyone to ever get cut, but it's just like, no duh. Like, these guys are all injured and are not even going to be pitching, most likely, in competitive games come the end of now the month that we're literally in. So no surprise there, but still noteworthy. Tyler Owens was a guy that people really liked his fastball coming up through the minor leagues, and there's a hope that when he gets fully healthy and back pitching competitive games again, that he can maybe utilize that, because it's not a high velo fastball. He's more of a spin rate. And for those who want to get like super analytical, an IVB darling, induced vertical break darling, his fastball very flat at the top of the zone, can get a lot of swing and miss, but hasn't really found success at the major league level. And then, like I said, obviously got hurt. Now, later in the weekend, the two bigger names that were technically a part of, I don't know why I said technically, they were a part of roster cuts. I guess they also were technically a part of cuts. Ty Madden and Dylan Smith, both, it was announced this weekend, will not make the major league team out of camp. Now, initial reaction, especially with how good Ty Madden was in his first spring outing, was a little bit of a surprise. Not that I expected either of these guys to make the roster. Okay, I did not. In no way did I think that either of these two gentlemen were going to make the roster on opening day at least. But there's still a lot of names on the list that haven't gotten cut yet. And also, I want to make this important distinction. I use the word cut because it is a short, simple, quick, and easy word that gets the point across of what I am saying. They are not literally cut from the organization. They are simply not going to make the opening day roster. All of these guys, almost, I will say if otherwise, have minor league contracts or are on the 40-man roster or etc. Want to make that perfectly clear. So with Smith and Madden, I think this is another instance of injury determining where they're going to start the season. Both of them are reportedly healthy and are, again, pitching, at least Ty Madden especially, like pretty competitively, like competitive innings at this point. But both of them had injuries last year. And I think that there is a little bit, I'm sure there was a conversation before. I'm sure they're not like blindsided by this. I'm sure they sat them down before and were like, hey, we're just going to start you off in AAA just to make sure that you're fully healthy and build your arm back up. And then maybe at some point down the road this year, we will determine if you're going to get a call up or not. But like, don't hold your breath about opening day. There's something to be said. AJ's been very good about this in his Tigers tenure as well. I'm sure he was in Houston as well, but just I've noticed it in his Tigers tenure, obviously, is making sure that players aren't like caught off by surprise or blindsided and being very honest with them. I'm sure he sat them down and was just like, we don't want you focusing on will you make the team or won't you make the team or have this drama in the back of your head. We just want you to focus on being healthy and pitching every time you're on the mound. So those are the first round of cuts. We'll have plenty more throughout the week. And then obviously as spring goes forward, more and more until we get to a 26-man roster by the end of March. We play regular season baseball this month. That'll bring a tear to an eye. It really will. Injury updates. Troy Melton will not be ready for opening day, as was announced on Friday by several great reporters. And obviously, they talked to Melton himself. He still seems pretty optimistic about like his status this season. But I mean, we'll see. Like everybody wants to pitch always. So I'd be concerned if he didn't want to pitch. The best case scenario in my head at this point is he's starting a throwing program or like soft tossing or playing catch or something before opening day. And then we'll be back to game action at the minor league level, albeit by like the middle or end of May. And I know that's like super, we're talking about almost 3 months in the future. That's just the way that pitching, especially elbow soreness in his throwing arm, that's just the way of the world these days, man. And not to, spill anyone's Cheerios, to keep it PG, that's best case scenario in my head. I'm like very notoriously pessimistic about pitching injuries and timelines. I will talk about Job tomorrow a little bit. But like that to me at least seems like best case scenario. It really wouldn't shock me at all if, we're talking about even longer into the summer, or, if we get a notification in 2 weeks from now that says he needs surgery or whatever. Hopefully that's not the case. And we'll knock on wood here and pray that he is okay and healthy, but he is not, no matter what, going to start the season healthy and will start off on the injured list in some capacity. So we'll keep an eye on that. Only other injury update outside of Job, who again we're going to talk about a little bit more tomorrow, is Dylan Dingler, who AJ Hinch said on the broadcast while being interviewed during the game that he hopes Dingler will start catching, he said, later in the week. I'm assuming that means by like next weekend, a week from when he was talking about. And if that is the case, then he should be good to go by opening day and start ramping up. He's doing all other baseball activities. AJ literally said the only thing he's not doing is throwing to second base. He's literally doing everything else. So Hopefully he can start getting some in-game action behind the dish by this upcoming weekend. Got a couple more small news and notes I want to highlight. Then we'll get into the news and notes from the field this weekend. We'll do that right after this. First, though, got to talk to y'all about our friends over at FanDuel. College basketball is nonstop. Big games, tight spreads, momentum swings every night. From early tip-offs to late-night West Coast shootouts, there's always action on the board. And now FanDuel is giving you a way to turn that energy into even bigger potential with potential wins with a college basketball parlay profit boost. Say that 10 times fast. You can build any college hoops parlay you want, rivalry games, ranked matchups, whatever fits my read. You can mix spreads, point totals, and player props, and look at odds around your team all the time. You can apply the profit boost and get an instant bump to a potential payout. So head to FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel, play your game. Also got to talk to y'all about our good friends over at Indeed. Workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you have to fill is just sitting there open. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. Indeed sponsored jobs help you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for: skills, experience, location. So you're not just hoping the right candidate happens to stumble across your post. And here's a stat that says it all. Just since we've been talking, Indeed, companies like yours have made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed-sponsored jobs. You can also use Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast and get $75 in sponsored job credit to help get your premium job the premium status that it deserves. Need to hire? That's a job for Indeed-sponsored jobs. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Segment 2, Locked On Tigers. Appreciate you for tuning in. As always, making us your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. We will be back tomorrow, so thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. And you can become an everydayer still by going to LockedOnPodcast.com/everydayer, signing up. You will get ad-free audio of this show as well as access to a members-only Discord server with myself and other Everydayer Club members in it. The excitement only grows as we get closer to regular season baseball. From this weekend, Justin Verlander began live BP. I say began. He actually did his first live BP last week, so I don't know why I said the word began. However, he did have a live batting practice session, we'll call it. There you go. Much better. He gave up some hits to McKinstry and Veerling by some reports. Evan Petzold of the Freep was all over this one, as always. It sounds like, based on a couple of different reports from a few different people, that the velocity at the start of the session was around 90, 91, and by the end, he was touching 94, 95. And the hope is that he will make his spring training debut at the end of this week as well. So maybe him and Dingler, heck, even make their spring debuts in 2026 together. The only other piece of news and notes I want to highlight is that players for the WBC have started leaving or are leaving as you're listening to this. Tarik Skubal pitched Sunday for the Tigers, then is immediately leaving on Sunday evening to go join Team USA. We already have guys like Hao-Yu Lee has already departed. Jahmai Jones has already departed. And it sounds like everyone will pretty much, that's participating obviously, will be gone by Monday morning, or by the game at least that the Tigers play on Monday afternoon. So somebody keep an eye out for. Really, this is just something to keep an eye out for. This is just it's really fun. Who doesn't love the WBC? But also it does open the door a little bit for some more playing time and at-bats and innings from people that may not have had it. So I view this only as a positive for not only the game of baseball, but for the individual teams as well. Okay, let's talk about on the field. The Tigers played 3 games. They won 16-8, 12-3, and then tied 4-4 on Sunday. Woohoo! Two wins. There's a lot of people that This is important, and getting a win and just getting that kind of monkey off your back, if you will, is not nothing. So there you go to all of those who are kind of, clenching their fists about not having a win in spring training. You can take a little bit of a sigh of relief there as the Tigers record 2, and even their third game that wasn't a win, wasn't a loss either. The offense also exploded. These weren't like 3-1 or 2-0 victories. I mean, in the first 2 games alone, they scored almost 30 runs just in those 2 games. So I want to start off with Kevin McGonigle. The big talk of camp, he's incredible. He's incredible. He had 2 hits on Saturday, both with exit velos over 100 miles an hour. He also drew a walk. He also then played shortstop on Sunday, started at shortstop, I should say, in the game on Sunday, and made 3 really solid defensive plays. Now, I'm not trying to make it sound like he looked like Andrelton Simmons or Ozzie Smith over there, right? But they were good plays. He wasn't challenged really to make a crazy acrobatic, whatever play. He turned 2 double plays in the first 3 innings, and one was, unassisted until the assist. So not unassisted. I'm not cutting that either. We're leaving that in. Did unassisted at second base and then threw the ball to first base. Ridiculous. And then he was on the receiving end of the turn in the second one, but both of them had to make really athletic, kind of acrobatic moves to get over to the bag, had to time it up on the first one to make sure he was able to get both runners. And then the third one, he's going towards third base on a slower dribbler too, and has to charge it and move to his right, throws across his body, doesn't even plant his foot, absolute strike to Spencer Torkelson. I think was still at first base at that point for the out. The one concern I had was defense, and I think, again, I'm not sure he's going to win a Gold Glove over there, but he looks sound enough to play shortstop at the major league level so far. It's March 2nd. We have 3 weeks of spring training left. We'll see. Maybe he starts booting the ball around. But up to this point, man, he's been the best player for the Tigers. He's been the MVP of spring training. I say that very tongue-in-cheek. No one make fun of me. But he's been really good, man. He's looked really sharp. Been great at the plate, and now looks pretty solid in the field as well. Speaking of shortstops, Javi Baez got some playing time this weekend. Had a huge home run on, I believe it was Friday's game. Friday or Saturday, doesn't really matter. But absolute tank, over 420 feet, like a missile on a hanging slider. And they talked about on the broadcast, you can throw those sliders all you want to Javi. He's going to swing and miss at a lot of them. But if you don't hit your spot and you hang it over the plate, he's also going to still do damage on it. The one rough part of Javi's game from the weekend was center field. He looked terrible. And that's, again, it was a March 1st game. He has plenty of time for it to not be terrible. I'm not saying he played good enough center field defense last year for me to not think that is what we saw on Sunday is the standard and the normal for him. If you're going to screw up now in spring training, but was misreading balls just really all afternoon. We've seen the same thing. Corey Julks has misread balls. Max Clark, obviously, for whatever reason, famously, ridiculous. That's a different conversation. But yeah, something that obviously he needs to tighten up. Some other news and notes. Riley Greene continues to make more contact this spring, which is nice. It's not regular season pitching. We, again, still have plenty of time to go in that department as well. But I think there's been tangible adjustments in a concrete effort, a visible effort, if you will, noticeable to try to cut down on the swing and miss and just put the ball in play a little bit more. Colt Keith continues to look rough at the plate. He did have a hit on Saturday, but that game wasn't televised. Had an RBI in that game as well. At third base defensively, I think he looks actually pretty decent on Sunday for whatever that's worth to you. I think at this point, we're all just kind of waiting for him to turn the corner offensively before we start worrying about what he's going to look like defensively at third. But, it's all part of the same equation. So still important to bring out. Spencer Torkelson, I've already mentioned a few times, had a couple of really nice scoops over at first base. He's so good at that, man. And I know that there's criticisms about maybe his athleticism at first base or his range at first base, or even his glove work on balls in play at first base. The one thing that is undeniable, he can absolutely pick them, and it is a beauty to watch in motion. So really nice piece of defense on display on Sunday, and then also an RBI single on Sunday as well, for whatever that's worth to you. Tarik Skubal with the 3 starters from the weekend were Tarik, Flaherty, and Drew Anderson. We will talk about them and more right after this. First, though, got to talk to you about our good friends over at MLB The Show 26. The greatest game in baseball is back with its newest installment. Baseball fans are going to have a hard time pulling themselves away from this game. I'll tell you what, I have played every single MLB The Show for a better part of a decade now, and I have already pre-ordered MLB The Show 26, available on March 17th. 2026. If you're a gamer, a baseball fan, or just want to enjoy America's favorite pastime in a new, exciting way, you are going to love MLB The Show 26. Play as your favorite team and franchise players and see if you have what it takes to win your own World Series. So visit MLBthe.show/lockedon and use code LOCKEDON to unlock a pack for use in Diamond Dynasty. Internet connection is required. Pre-order now, available March 17th. On PlayStation 5, Xbox Series S and X, and Nintendo Switch, rated E for everyone. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Third and final segment of Locked On Tigers. Appreciate you all for tuning in, as always. We're talking about the starting pitching from this weekend. Tarik Skubal with 3 innings, kind of got hit around a little bit. The velo, I mean, he was 96, 97, not regular season velocity still. Him and AJ both, when asked about the outing, talked about how this really, you trust Tarik so much and care so little about results in the spring that it's almost just strictly building up volume and just getting him to a point where he can start regular season games and go into, the 6th, 7th inning. That's at this point, that is really all that you're looking for. I don't care that he gave up 2 runs in a spring training game, man. I really could not care less. Will Vest, too, while we're on the subject, actually. Let's just jump the gun there. I was going to talk about him later. Got rocked again. I said my piece on this last week. I'll continue saying it. Will Vest has been absolutely horrible in spring trainings for pretty much his entire career, and it does not correlate to his regular season success or failure literally at all. So I don't care. He could have a 15 ERA in spring. I genuinely would not care less. So want to make that abundantly clear as well. Jack Flaherty, 2 innings, 1 earned run, 4 strikeouts. Pretty good. Had a little bit of controversy where he told a batter in a spring training game, where's the quote? To quote, get your eyes checked after challenging a pitch that was very close to right down the middle. Yeah, I mean, I love it. Some people were mad. Maybe it's a thing where you love it if it's on your team and you get mad if it's not, that's how people used to describe Rasheed Wallace back in the day, right? Draymond Green, maybe for a modern day, if you will. Yeah, I love it. Fire me up, dude. I don't care if it's February or if it's October. Anybody can get it if they're in that batter's box, man. I don't play that. I respect the heck out of it. I have zero issue with that. The biggest thing is the velocity for the fastball seemed to be good, and then the breaking stuff seemed to be good. I think my biggest takeaway from Flaherty was the usage of the changeup. Now, we've seen Matt Manning, what was it, 2 years ago? I think it was 2 years ago. Matt Manning, spring training 2024, just to take you on a time machine ride here. I begged on this show, if you're a longtime listener, for him to develop a changeup and use it for his entire professional career, essentially. And in spring training, he started throwing it, and it had mixed results, but he was throwing it a ton. And then the second that the regular season started, he just completely dismissed it. So again, this is spring training. These guys are all working out and trying new stuff. Parker Meadows has changed his hitting mechanics 8 different times. That's an exaggeration. He's done it twice. But in the first, 2 weeks of spring training, they're all just trying stuff. And so we'll see if any of that sticks. Drew Anderson, 3 innings, a shutout with 3 strikeouts. This was not televised, but my biggest takeaway continues to be that the velocity is just way up from what it was before he went overseas. What else? Some other, I guess, smaller kind of anecdotes I want to point out. Matt Bierling stays hot at the plate, and almost all of his hits are hard hit balls too, which is absolutely beautiful to see. Kerry Carpenter gets a couple of hard hits as well. I want to see him draw walks, man. Like that. I know that he can hit a ball 120 miles an hour off the bat. I know that. Okay. I go to sleep every night thankful that he can do that. I'm well aware. Keep the hamstrings healthy for the love of everything and draw some walks. And we're going to have a really fun year. We talked about Will Vest. Kyle Finnegan, Kenley Jansen, and Will Vest all pitched on Sunday, which I thought was interesting. We talked Vest. Kyle Finnegan looked really good, and Kenley Jansen looked really good. Kind of the first look we've seen. Finnegan had pitched before, but I don't think it was televised, and this was Kenley Jansen's spring debut. So good to see both of them not only on the mound, but looking sharp. I mean, the velo was really solid with both of them. It'll only, hopefully ramp up from here. Finnegan's was a little bit down, but not anything to, write home about or highlight or anything. And then Jansen, the cutter looked like the cutter, and the slider looked good too. He was throwing the breaking stuff a decent amount on top of that. Jayce Young had a couple of hits on Saturday. Not only that, he hit a ball like 360 feet, which is was not a home run, but it was a double. And I bring that up to say that I looked at Baseball Savant and I looked at Jayce Young's career. In the regular season, in his major league life, he has only hit one ball further than that double that he had on Saturday. So maybe some signs of life. I know I'm reading far too into a spring training double, but I am just begging this dude to find the power that he's had his entire life at the major league level, and hopefully that's a sign that these new mechanics and whatnot are a positive in that regard. Trey Cruz had another knock this weekend, but I love Trey Cruz. I'm all in, man. It took me like a week and a half, and I was a big fan of his in Toledo last year, and he drew a ton of walks, but you never. There's always some concern about how much of that translates. I love him. I absolutely love it. He's, again, good competitive at-bats, switch hitter, and played shortstop and center field this weekend alone. Those are two of the most important and most valuable defensive positions on the diamond, and he played both of them in 72 hours. He's a dog. Valencia also stays hot at the plate, had the home run on Thursday. We talked about on Friday's episode. On top of that, also had an RBI. Was that a single? The opposite way, or maybe it was a sac fly. Anyway, got another RBI and keeps hitting the ball hard and sending it, to the wall. So good for him. Corey Julks stays on fire. John Peck seems to be a coaching favorite. He's been in almost every game at some point, has played a little bit of second, played a lot of short, some decent at-bats as well, kind of blown away by velocity, but we expect that for a low minor leaguer getting a look up here. But yeah, something to keep an eye out for. I always like those kind of stories, and yeah, good for him. I hope that he can continue to make a name for himself because he's looked pretty sharp. The big thing I want to end with, Enmanuel De Jesus, wowzers, okay? I think this is legitimately one of the bigger stories from the entire weekend. And I know it's not the biggest name that we talked about, certainly in this episode, but if you want to talk biggest, if we were to do stock risers and fallers from just the weekend, I think De Jesus maybe had the biggest, riser effect in that regard. Pitched 3 innings and had, 5 or 6 strikeouts. And he was, maybe it was even 7. He was remarkable and was not afraid to throw fastballs up. Velo that I did not see in his first outing that he was showcasing in this one, 94, 95, top rail too, and to righties as a left-handed pitcher, just no fear to go up in the zone, striking people out left and right. Some pretty good horizontal movement as well. He's a lefty. He can touch mid-90s, which for a lefty reliever is, pretty solid. And he can go multiple innings. I'm not trying to declare anything on March 2nd. I will tell you that I think that he has thrown and pitched his way into at least the conversation of like, maybe we should be giving this dude more of a legitimate look as a potential fit for the Major League bullpen. Again, not declaring anything, not saying he's definitely, we still have 3 weeks of spring left, but he has looked really sharp. And if Max Clark caught, if the sun wasn't blinding him in left field in De Jesus's first outing, then you'd be talking about 2 pretty darn good box scores to look at, along with just the eye test of what we've seen on the mound as well. So wouldn't surprise me if we saw a lot more innings out of him. Thanks for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. We will, of course, be back tomorrow. We'll talk a little bit about some of the pitching plans for the week. We'll talk World Baseball Classic. We will also talk Jackson Jobe and his injury progress, injury recovery, Tommy John recovery. And a handful of other, news and notes from around camp. So peace and love. Go to therapy's dope, and I'll catch you all tomorrow, baby. Go Tigers.